So while I'm sat here having a gin and tonic, Nisha, what's a food that you couldn't live without?
Ooh, cheese.
Good answer. During World War II, the British government enforced strict rationing for much of the populace that greatly limited the variety and amount of food they could access. While bad, it could have been much worse for Brits, or at the very least their toilets, according to one secretive study conducted at the start of the war. So, Nisha, what do you know about rationing first? Because I think every British kid learns a little bit about rationing at school.
Well, I remember we did, more recently actually, a video about the bananas.
We did, yes.
How kids didn't think they were real because they were using the ships, weren't they, for the war, like the refrigerated ships, which they needed for the bananas to transport them over.
So there were no bananas.
No bananas.
You're very right, yes, which I think is a good way of just summing up how limited the access to food was for many Britons. As Nisha said there, bananas were such a rarity, many British children did not think they were real. And there's a couple of like great stories, not great, but like amusing stories, I should say, from the Second World War, because there were a couple of things that the government did that upended the way of life for a lot of people. And a story that springs to mind that's quite similar to that one is that some kids who've been taken out of cities and sent to live in rural areas. If you're wondering why do they do that, it's like the cities were at risk of being bombed, so the government took kids out of cities and sent them to rural areas. And there were kids that didn't know what cows were.
Oh, really?
Because they were just poor working class kids from cities where they'd never really seen the outside or grass or anything like that. And they got to these rural areas with farms and stuff, and there was one kid who was shit scared of a cow, thinking it was a monster.
Oh, yeah, if you'd never seen one before, you'd be like, what the fuck is that?
They'd never seen a cow before, so they thought it was a monster, and they had no idea that's where meat came from. Because a lot of the kids also hadn't eaten much meat. And one of the weirder facts about rationing is that while it sounds like everyone had less, a lot of people actually ate better during World War II and in the few years after it, during which rationing was still enforced. They ate better.
I imagine it's like they ate a lot of like vegetables and stuff like that.
So the things that were rationed varied throughout the war, and like rationing got stricter and stricter as the war effort went on. And as I mentioned, it remained for a few years after the war as supply lines got set back up. But one of the few things that was not rationed were the supplies of vegetables. However, they were still in limited supply. So many Britons were advised and incentivised to grow their own vegetables at home. And that was the Dig for Britain campaign. You probably saw the posters at school.
Yeah.
There'll be examples of some of them behind me. It's like encouraging Britons to grow their own food to aid the war effort. And the things that were rationed were things like meat, fat, sugar, chocolate. Bacon was a very important one. There was like bacon was seen as so morale boosting that every Briton was given like, a small amount of bacon per week.
I don't know if I'd miss bacon that much really, and I know a lot of people.
Fan of bacon.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like bacon. I don't mind the medallions, but like bacon with like lots of fat on.
Yeah.
I hate the fat texture.
But now imagine, Nisha, all you'd eaten for like 2 years is nothing but boiled veg. How much would you be craving a bacon fucking sandwich after all that?
I can understand that, to be fair.
Exactly, and that's all people could really eat, and that's why those those luxury items were rationed out so that everybody could get their fair share, because they saw it's been so critical to morale. But the thing that was weird about it is that the diet that the government basically forced everyone to adhere to is the exact kind of diet that a modern nutritionist would recommend for a healthy lifestyle. For example, something a lot of people don't know is that dietitians and nutritionists don't recommend that you eat meat more than 3 times a week. But how many people have meat with every meal, or have 1 meal per day with meat in it? That's why the Sunday lunch, historically has a roast with it, because that was the one time per week people would eat meat, and the rest of the week they would eat leftovers and things like that. But they would mostly have a vegetarian diet with some things in it like milk and eggs.
Did not know that. That's news to me. Because I eat a lot of chicken.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like modern Britons, and I think modern people in general, eat a lot of meat, and we eat too much meat. So this diet that the government forced upon people, that was loud, that wasn't it? It's pretty loud. Someone upstairs 5 o'clock, fucking done for the day. So today's sponsor is a company called Established Titles, and what they do is you can buy a small parcel of land up in Scotland, which gives you a title. And I think we're all familiar with the kind of companies that do this. But the twist here, which I quite like, is that when you buy a patch of land and a title through these guys, that funds the planting of a tree. And I did my due diligence here, and Established Titles do work with registered charities, both of which will be listed in a fact bar below. So you will get an official certificate in the mail, and you'll get that, and that does confer upon you a title, which allow you to use, and I have it written here, you can officially put Lord or Lady as the prefix to your name. If you follow the link below, the patch of land that you get will be located as geographically close to the patch of land where the Lord or Lady of Fact Fiend is located. So we will in effect have a small Fact Fiend kingdom. And everyone who buys one will also help plant a tree, which means that they will not only be contributing to the Fact Fiend empire, but helping create a literal small wood. Can you see why I took this sponsorship? I'm not sure if you guys have heard me talk about this in the past, but I've often said that when I die, I'm going to bequeath some of the money that I have to protect a patch of land. So that will become Karl Smallwood's small wood. And this is literally allowing me to realise one of my bucket list items by creating a small wood. So we will have Karl Smallwood's small wood and the beginnings of the Fact Fiend empire up there in Scotland. So this diet that the government forced upon people via rationing is widely regarded as one of low-key the greatest efforts for public health ever enacted by accident, because it's noted that studies conducted after the war, people are healthier, they're living longer despite having just lived through a war, children are heavier, which doesn't sound like a good thing considering the modern obesity panic, but before the war a lot of kids were malnourished and didn't eat very well, but with the advent of rationing ensuring that every Briton got enough, not too much but enough, and it was a nutritionally balanced diet, they all ate exactly what their body needed, because that's what rationing did. It's this is what you need to live, here's a few treats for morale, and that's it.
That's exactly like a healthy diet. That sounds like a healthy diet, because obviously they're not able to overindulge in stuff. Yeah. So. And
the only people who could overindulge were rich folk, because there were a few things about rationing that rich people were able to circumvent, as they always do. So rich people always got to ruin things for everybody else, and one of the rules that was in place is that while most food stuff were rationed, no such rules apply to restaurants. So if you were rich and you could afford to eat out for every meal, you could eat as much as you wanted to. And that caused a great deal of strife between the poorer working classes and the people higher up. And eventually the government stepped in and went, stop fucking selling big meals at restaurants. It's not doing very good for morale. You're going to cause a class uprising. And rich people got annoyed about it, of you know how bad this looks, right? And it's just, I can only see the parallels to the pandemic of all those rich people who still went on holiday and stuff like that. Boris Johnson on TV, pitch in and do your shit as I go to my 14th leaving do of the week.
I just don't understand why he had to launch an investigation to see if he was actually at his own parties.
Yeah, man who's constantly surveilled and followed around by secret police, doesn't have exact details of his whereabouts. I believe that.
It's were you at the party? I don't think I was. I have to just investigate it and find out. It's you were there, yes or no. You know if you were there or not. Stop lying.
And that's the thing of the historical parallels are quite apt here. But getting back to rationing, as I mentioned, it made people healthier for the most part, which was of great surprise to experts studying it. But as I mentioned, things would have got much worse for British toilets.
Oh yeah, I need to hear this story then.
I'm guessing you need to know. Okay, so while things got pretty dire, and throughout the war and in the immediate aftermath of it, there were some things that became increasingly more difficult to get. So those luxury items that were seen as being critical to morale, like sugary things like oranges. Eventually got to the point where oranges were being rationed out and only given to pregnant women and young children. And things like chocolate eventually got almost impossible to get a hold of. And bananas became nearly extinct in Britain. Kids didn't know they existed.
A myth.
And the fact from the video that we did about it is that some kids didn't know how to open a banana, and that's released guides on how to eat bananas.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And there's a couple of things that people did. One of the ones that I like is that they had carrots on sticks.
I think that's one vegetable I'm still a bit about. Your taste buds change, obviously. I like a lot more veg now, but carrots is still one of those ones, and cabbage and Brussels sprouts. Still on the, not sure. It's on the line of, nah.
You want to blow your mind right now and tell you why that's the case?
Go on.
Because when you're a kid, and sprouts taste like shit.
They still do a little bit to
me.
And
then you take a sip of your mum's coffee and it tastes crap, or you have a sip of beer and it's awful, and then you get older and you're like, oh, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then you always get told, oh, it's because you got a more refined palate. That's bullshit. But no one's ever wondered why things like that taste better as you get older. It's because your taste buds die. You have a finite amount of taste buds, and as you get older, they die, so you are naturally more inclined to be attracted to stronger and stronger taste profiles. Like I said, things got dire, but they never got so dire that those things couldn't still be procured. But there was the very real risk that Germany, as part of their wildly popular Fuck Britain campaign, may have completely stranded the island from supply ships from allies, and as a result, Britain would have been completely cut off from all the foodstuffs that it imported. At the time, Britain relied on foreign imports for, I think, 70% of all food in the country. So if they got cut off completely from Europe and the wider reaches of the world, 70% of the food that they had would be gone. And this so worried a group of researchers from Cambridge, they went into the woods and they decided to live on a diet of things that could be procured in Britain in the event that we were completely cut off. So if anyone curious what that meant, that was an unlimited amount of root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, swedes, turnips, and that sort of thing. Unlimited amount of wholemeal bread, and a small amount of butter, egg, and a very, very small amount of meat and game. And much to the shock of the people conducting that experiment, they were fine.
I'm not surprised really, it's vegetables.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Vegetables?
It's vegetable, like they were worried of like, would it affect us if we only ate vegetables? It's like, no, they're good for you, but you have to remember this is like nearly 100 years ago now. People didn't know.
Yeah.
And one of the things they wanted to check as well is like, could we still work eating this very Spartan, very simple diet? So what they did is like every single day would go out and do like mountaineering and long walks and cycling and like stuff to simulate the back-breaking labour of working the land in the event Britain was forced to rely on only itself.
So super healthy, exercising as
And
well.
they were like, wow, people do really well when they exercise all the time and eat vegetables. Who'd have fucking thunk it? But this is where, though, those poor toilets come in, because the only downside the researchers found to this diet is that their poos got twice as big.
So they were straightening some U-bends then?
Yeah.
Straightening those U-bends.
They were, and I've not heard that phrase before, but yeah, they were dropping some epic shits. And if you're wondering, Karl, how do you know that their poos were exactly twice as big? They measured them.
Oh, God.
Well, they had to, because they had to know everything that this diet did to them. And there was one poor, unfortunate soul who took part in that experiment who let loose a sphincter-annihilating turd that was 250% larger than normal. And the other thing that they noticed is that the diet was very dry because there was little in the way of seasoning. You couldn't butter your bread, you only had a very limited amount of butter, and they largely saved that for trying to season meat and things like that. So it took about 2 to 3 times longer to eat your meal because you basically had to sit there just chewing dry bread and boiled vegetables. In addition to squeezing out, crimping out those double-sized turds, the people in the experiment also noticed that they farted so much that it was described as, and I quote, remarkable. That's the quote they use of we're all farting a remarkable amount.
I thought you were going to say disgusting amount or something.
A remarkable amount of farts were happening. I guess now we have to put that clip in of, is it that Scottish lady who comes in, who didn't flush the fucking toilet? It's disgusting!
Well, you did a shit.
Well, it was fucking one of yous. Disgusting!
And I know this is a very minor footnote, all things considered in regards to World War II, but it's still very, very funny that these researchers went out there and was like, yeah, this diet would be fine to live on near indefinitely. Those fucking poos, though. And Nisha, moving swiftly away from those giant ass turds. I've noticed that we've got a little Spyro here. What's he doing? Why is he like, whoa? Whoa. What's he doing?
Because he's a phone holder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's sideways.
Oh, no!
It's sideways! So it was right the first time.
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh, okay.
So you can use it when you're charging your phone. If you're in bed and watch something, you can lie on your side. There. So many times, we'll put something on YouTube, put it on Spyro, and just lie there and watch it.
And now he's here in our office, just being like, yo. Because I just thought it was like doing that of like, whoa.
Whoa.
What? Calm down. Calm down. Calm down.
No, because I wanted to bring some
knickknacks, yes.
Extra stuff in. I was like, yeah, bring Spyro in. Why not?
We have a bunch of knickknacks in the office because we have the gimmick of silly things on the desk, and people probably wonder why do you always have something strange on the desk? It's visually interesting. It catches the eye. And I think something I'm doing at the moment on the channel's TikTok, like a series I've started, is what weird things I own, because I own a number of things that nobody else on planet Earth has. That's not hyperbole. I have things nobody else has because they're so fucking stupid. And I think the one I mentioned is I've got like some sand from the Dubai desert, and that sand has been like arranged a bit of sand art, and on it just says Big Dick G. And I would bet my left nut no one out there has got sand from the Dubai desert that says Big Dick G on it. And I thought it'd be fun to share some of those objects with you, the audience, in a series I'm going to call Shit From My Shelf. And we're going to start with some sand from the Dubai desert that says Big Dick G on it. Because I'm thinking like maybe I could do something like the Untitled Side channel. Because I think we've got like the Q&A series and stuff we have on there.
Or you could do like behind the scenes or behind the fiends as we've called it. Just what's in the office. Like,
we've got a bunch of stuff. Do you want to pass some of the stuff? Like there's so many random things in the office. I've got like this. This is like this is a Christmas present. No, yeah, I've got like Brad's Halloween costume that he brought in once.
Oh,
like,
the mask.
Just a little pew pew pew. We're going like pow, zap. Got all sorts of bullshit. And that's the thing of like I like the idea of having something silly on the desk, but we do occasionally get comments from people like, the fuck do you have this for? And it's like, what do you mean, what do we have this for? It's interesting, it's for, oh yeah.
This is definitely unique.
This is, no one has one of these. So before I show it off, I'm just going to explain what it is. So, I went with my girlfriend to one of those classes where they teach you how to reconstruct a human face from a skull. And I fucked mine up so bad, it looked like Shrek. So
The Poundland Shrek,
yeah. Like, no one else has one of these. So that's the thing. Like, I tried to reconstruct a face from a human skull, and I fucked it all the way up, so I just made it like Shrek.
Could also do like behind the fiends of like mine, Brad and Lucas's office. I know Lucas has got a lot of knickknacks in his room, so you could do like tours, I guess.
Yes, that's
office tours.
That's why I'm doing that thing on the TikTok of just like the little silly things that I own, because I'm quite proud of the fact I own stuff that no one else on earth has.
I'm like thinking of what's in my office. I think there might be one thing that I have
that no one else
that
has.
I don't think no one else has.
Ooh, do you want to share what it is?
It is. If I edit this, I'll take a picture of it and put it in. So one of our close friends from uni, she's quite creative. She's good at drawing, stuff like that. She sewed for my birthday. I think it was my 21st. A Spyro, funnily enough.
Okay.
She just sewed a Spyro onto like a bit of fabric and then put it in a photo frame. I'm thinking like how many people have got a hand like sewn Spyro like birthday gift.
And that's the thing, that's why I like commissioning art. It's like why we have like the merch and stuff. Like this t-shirt I'm wearing right now is part of the merch store we have. But it's part of a wider design that we're unfortunately not able to transfer to the merch store yet. Which is like a Fiend album cover based on a video we did. And it's like, yeah, that's a unique piece of art that I now own and can slap on a shirt and sell to people. And no fucker has one of these. Well, people they can if they want. You can own one, but you won't have mine. It's like all the stuff we get. It's like I love like the fact we can sell merch and things like that. Like we can get these things that nobody else has. When we get sent like the promos and I'm like, no one else, this is mine.